It's late. Hello. Okay, let's go. Before Your Eyes. God, I've been thinking about this game for like 2 months now. I kind of want to discuss why.
And just try to enjoy it this time.
Look at that sun. We've got a long, beautiful day ahead of us. Why are you smiling like that?
This is a hard game to talk about. It's a short indie title with an oil-painted art style. Sharing too much about the story or the gameplay would detract from your experience with it, so I'll be succinct right at the start of the video. If you like emotional stories that you can finish in a single sitting, then Before Your Eyes might be for you. To me, a good game is one that successfully fulfills the goals that it itself wants to achieve. This wanted to be a heartfelt story about a person's life told through game mechanics that really emphasize the perspective of the main character. And yeah, this game wholeheartedly succeeds at pulling that off. If you enjoy experiences like Firewatch, Gone Home, and What Remains of Edith Finch, then you'll probably enjoy this experience too. I enjoyed this game for the same reasons I enjoy indie walking simulators. A semi-passive experience of a narrative that's been crafted with care and is not afraid of taking some creative risks. Sometimes I just want to play a game that I can experience in 1 or 2 play sessions. I was planning on playing this over a couple of nights, but I couldn't help but finish it in one sitting. Every little ounce of story detail that was dripped through to me made me want to just keep pushing through a little bit further to see what was on the other side. Okay, enough fluff and bubble. Let's go through what this game really is. Green screen Django, this is your cue. I said green screen Django, this is your cue.
Alright, fine.
So here's the basic setup. You play as a soul called Benjamin Bryn, and you're just floating along in your afterlife as one of these little blue flowing souls in the river of the dead, only to get fished out of here by this charming little wolf fellow. He calls himself the ferryman, and he's, well, an orator of sorts. His job is to fish these souls out of the ocean and then present them to a mysterious deity with the hope that they would find their life story compelling enough to let them into this glorious afterlife, with this charming ferryman to take a cut of it, of course. Through this process, you'll experience Benjamin Bryn's first moments to his last. Here's where the gameplay comes in. As you're experiencing Benjamin's life through his own eyes, you will use the webcam to interact with the environment around you. You can use your mouse as a cursor to look around the environment, but there's no clicking. Just use your eyes to blink, and it will interact with anything with this little eye symbol on it. This could be to reveal part of a scene, or take a photo with a camera, or pick up an object and play around with it. They use some really interesting mechanics with just the webcam. I found this really compelling, actually. I never, even on my second playthrough, I was still taken aback by oh, my eyes are controlling the game. This is interesting. Every now and then this metronome symbol will pop up on the screen. Now, when you blink, the current scene you're looking at will end and you'll be transported to another moment further along in Ben's life. For example, you might just be chilling in the kitchen, playing with a toy, only to hear your parents arguing about something in the next room over. Desperate to know what they're talking about, you lean forward, desperately trying to catch a glimpse of their conversation, and ooh, juicy, your mum's really spilling that goss now. And whoops, you blinked. Now you're on the beach, unaware of what you just missed, leaving your imagination to fill in the blanks. And now you just got to keep going with this next scene that you're in. Where are you? What are you thinking about? What's going on? How old is Ben? And you don't have the time to ruminate on what just happened in the previous scene because you blink now and you're gone from that. And this just keeps stacking over and over and over again. And over time you start to piece everything together, like, oh, maybe that's what she was talking about in the kitchen. You're always thinking about what you missed, and it lets your imagination fill in the blanks with all these theories about what's going on behind the scope of your own perception. This core idea of not wanting to blink sounds cute in theory, but in practice it's remarkably interesting. It creates desirable story moments by locking them away from you. Usually in game design it's not a good idea to hide your best moments behind this gated wall.
Okay, so it's nighttime, I've been at work all day, and I just wanted to do some simple editing for a bit, you know, chip away at it. And I can't for the life of me figure out what the fuck I was trying to say here.
Adjacent wall, adjacent wall, adjacent wall.
Adjacent?
Adjacent wall, adjacent wall.
Adjacent?
Adjacent wall.
Adjacent?
Adjacent wall.
Gasic?
Adjacent wall. Adjacent wall. Adjacent wall.
Hang on.
Best moments behind this adjacent wall.
Gated! Oh my god, I'm such an idiot.
If a game has great endgame content, but in order to reach that endgame content you need to play through 30 hours of a mediocre story, then the majority of players are going to play your game, finish the story, not engage with the endgame content, and come away with the feeling that your game is unremarkable. You've got to show your best stuff. But these developers? No, they're hiding it from you. And there's a very important reason that they're doing it. The story is deliberately hidden behind the mechanism of blink and you'll miss it. This forces players to hold their eyes open like a lid lock from Clockwork Orange or something. It seems like a gimmick at first, but this game just keeps going, bringing in new ideas and new mechanics all the way up until its conclusion. I don't want to spoil these moments later on into the story, so just take my word that the developers managed to come up with some really interesting uses for the webcam mechanics. The story that's told is quaint and relatable, dealing with family tensions, generational trauma, and how to live the life that you have rather than the life that you want. All really powerful concepts for a game like this, and it all suits the game that contains them. There's no big boss battles, collectibles, or leveling up. What you see is what you get. Hey, I see what you did there. Yeah, very clever. Thank you. Okay, back to you, non-green screen Django. Sorry about before. I sincerely apologize. That was very silly of me. And we will not condone any silliness on this program. So, let's sum this up. We have an indie title with a beautiful art style, minimal gameplay, and a touching story that can be completed in a single session. Like I said at the start of this video, if this sounds like an experience you're looking for, then bam, slap that recommendation sticker on it and go play it. Instant classic, sobbed my eyes out. If you're looking for this type of gaming experience, you don't need to hear any more about it. Just go in with an open mind and you'll have a good time. Or a really sad one. Probably a really sad one. However, I understand that the appeal of a game like this is limited based on the value proposition that single playthrough indie titles like this offer to gamers. I want to recommend this game to everyone, but I know some gamers won't see the value of a game they spend money on and will probably finish in a single sitting. The question of why this is a tough game to recommend is interesting to me. So if you indulge me for just a bit, I'd like to unpack some of the reasons why. I think some of these reasons aren't found in the game itself, but are instead based on cultural attitudes to what a game actually is.
Hang on, is this thing on?
Nope. There's been a mistake. Still not right. No. Where am I?
The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from...
Oh no, thank you. Often we value games based on how long it takes us to play them. I've seen this cost per hour discussion in the gaming community used to determine a game's worth or a game's value, and I don't quite get it. Ooh. Come on, mate. No, alright, I thought we were gonna have a guest star, but apparently not. What was I talking about? Oh yes, cost per hour comparisons in video games. How much am I going to spend and how many hours of fun or experience am I going to get out of that? And I'm kind of puzzled because this kind of criteria doesn't lend itself to other artistic mediums. You don't really hear many people complaining about how long a movie was, like it was too short. Usually, in fact, it's the opposite. This movie was too long. 3.5 hours for a movie can sometimes be a deal breaker for people. They don't come away being like, well, at least I got my money's worth. I've seen the gaming community use this dollar per hour metric of trying to determine a game's worth. And I think this mentality is a result of viewing games as a consumer product rather than a piece of art. Of course they're a consumer product, right? Like, you pay money for it and you want to get a good experience out of it. But these are also mediums in which humans can express themselves, challenge ideas, and just make something that they want to make. And so viewing it purely through this space of, I spent this much on it, therefore I want to get this much out of it, kind of limits what you can potentially seek in a game. If you're looking for a new game to fill time and make for a fun little distraction after a hard day at work, then yeah, I can understand the sentiment. Like, I'd feel ripped off if I spent $70 on a game and it was A, not a good experience, and B, didn't last very long. You don't want to feel ripped off, and you want that fun experience to last for as long as possible. So you could buy Skyrim once and get years of enjoyment. Good value. But, you know, I think there are games that I've spent money on and I've finished in one sitting, like Before Your Eyes, and the play experience has resonated with me enough for me to just kind of wave off the amount of time that it took me to complete it, because it was that good of an experience and it made me think about it for long enough that why even put a money value on it? See, I understand this dollar per hour perspective, but personally, I don't feel that way. For me, it's quality over quantity. It's not how long I play a game for, but how long I'm left thinking about that game afterwards. That's what's important to me. And so for the purpose of this video, like, I want to coin this term. Let's call it resonance. How long can a game stay with you after you play it? I actually got a friend that, while discussing the script for this video, she was telling me about this concept in Ayurveda medicine called rasa, which refers to the resonance of anything. We were playing a board game the other day and, you know, it was fun, but we forgot about it instantly afterwards. Then we played this game called Cascadia, and the practice of laying these hexagonal tiles onto the board, it kind of left us sitting on the couch afterwards, just thinking about putting little hexagons of habitats next to other little hexagons of habitats. It left us with strong rasa, strong resonance. So when we talk about consumer products and the effects that they have on us, I kind of want to bring into the discussion this idea of how long the experience stays with you after you experience it. Like, I watched Tar with Cate Blanchett the other day, and I walked out of the theater not liking that movie. I didn't like it. And then lied in bed and just stared at the ceiling, and I thought about that movie for like 3 nights in a row. And now when someone asks me about whether or not you should go and see Tar, I'm like, yes, go and see it, it's a good movie. The process of unpacking those thoughts and dissecting how I felt about it added value to that experience beyond just going to see it in the cinema. And to ignore this thing happening in gaming spaces as well would just be, you know, devaluing the artistic merit of what this medium could be. I played Immortality for a couple of hours, but I keep thinking about that game. Like, I didn't even finish it, but there are some scenes from that movie, I don't know what, it's a game. There are some scenes from that game that stick with me for a very long time. Like, they resonate with me, and they've challenged the way that I think about certain situations in my daily life. And to me, that adds a lot of value to the proposition of this as both a consumer product and a piece of art. I feel like the time that I spend reflecting and dissecting a game adds to the experience of it itself. So when we're talking about playtime of a game, we're just talking about the physical time it takes to sit down and play a game. But Something like Bioshock Infinite, I beat in a weekend, and I thought about that game for the next week. And when I think about my experience of playing through Bioshock Infinite, that period of time after I completed it, and I spent reflecting about what happened, the story twists, the messages it was trying to get across to me, like that occupies the same space in my brain as the time when I was actually playing through it. While I might have completed Before Your Eyes in a single sitting, this game has been living in my brain rent-free for about 2 months now. This is that resonance that I was talking about. Rasa. Rasa is just an objectively more fun word to say. Compare this to something like Shadow Warrior 3. I played it, had a good time, good combat, interesting enemies, good level design, and it's got a grappling hook. It's got a grappling hook. I had fun, but I don't think the experience left me with any resonance. Went in one way and it just came out the other. If you approach your gaming purchases with a dollar per hour mindset, then you'd look at something like Shadow Warrior 3 and be like, yeah, no, that's got more value and more worth than Before Your Eyes. But I don't agree with that. If you're just looking for your money's worth, then Before Your Eyes is it's just not for you. It took me about 100 minutes to beat, making it feel more like a movie-going experience than a gaming one. Why do I make that assertion? What is a movie-going experience? What is a gaming experience? Because to me, games as an art form, they're still in their infancy. When an emerging art form starts developing, it attempts to legitimize itself by imitating and comparing itself to other mediums considered art. Photographs were compared to paintings, movies were compared to literature, and then television was compared to movies. When The Last of Us first came out, the reaction was, wow, this would make a really good movie. Turns out we were wrong. It'd make a damn good TV show instead. A new medium draws on the techniques of previously established ones to gain artistic capital. It isn't until new norms are established and the mass adoption of an art form occurs that artists start to explore and play with the things that make the medium unique. This game might be short compared to other games, but the requirement for games to be as long as possible and stuffed with as much content as possible, it just seems arbitrary and limiting for the potential of games as an artistic medium. I wouldn't have wanted Before Your Eyes to be any longer. If the developers stuffed more content into this game to increase its value proposition, I feel like it would have detracted from the experience of it. So we have to ask this question. Would this story have been just as effective if it was told in another artistic medium? Well, short answer, no. Long answer, okay, so the story told here would work in other mediums, and it is similar to stories that have been told before. It is the mechanics of the game that deepens your emotional connection to the narrative. Games achieve their artistic goals in two novel ways compared to other mediums: feedback and agency. When you play a horror game and the controller vibrates, the additional feedback adds another layer to your immersion in the world. Sony understands this, hence why they focused on much more detailed controller feedback with the PS5. Agency, on the other hand, adds to your immersion by allowing you to interact with the world and story by giving you the sense that you could have done something different.
No, his head still fell off. What? I couldn't save him.
With a certain level of agency in art, the experience of it becomes your own. And now we get to why I think Before Your Eyes is so unique. In Before Your Eyes, the feedback and agency present in the game are the same thing. Your experience of it is tied to a body function that you do not have control over, and that's the blinking mechanic. To experience what you want in this game and express your agency, you actually have to fight your natural impulses. This generates feedback that is connected to your own body. And now I think I'm starting to get a little esoteric describing this, but the point I'm trying to get across is your body being the controller is a really powerful storytelling device, especially when that story asks questions about what it means to experience and remember something. The major theme of this story is how you can't experience everything that life has to offer. Life flashes before your eyes, and you have to be present and experience the up and downs. Pairing this with the body function of blinking, and it becomes a really memorable experience. You have to challenge yourself not to miss parts of the story, and also accept that you won't be able to experience everything. Like, damn, it's deep. Time is a fickle mistress. So let's try to answer the main question of this video. Why do I recommend a game that's so short? Well, easy, because it's good. Just because a game is short and sweet doesn't mean that people won't find value in it. Relying on a measurement of how much content is in a game to determine its artistic value limits the potential creativity in the gaming space. If a developer wants to tell a story that's short, market pressures to make it into a blockbuster with 100 hours of content will dilute the player's experience. Pacing is so important to the feelings you get when consuming a narrative, and I would prefer it to play a well-paced story that's short over a poorly paced story that's long anytime. Good pacing in games lets each story exposition build upon the last in succession, for maximum impact on the player rather than leaving the player asking, wait, what's going on? Who is that character again? Where am I? So while I know that most gamers won't enjoy this game as much as I did, I hope developers will feel more comfortable in the future to make games as short as they want. Different stories and different experiences, well, they need different amounts of time in order to effectively tell their narratives. For the beautiful story told in this game, 100 minutes was all it needed to sear itself into my memory. So I'm almost worried to come out as someone who seeks emotional experiences in video games. The culture that has emerged from this art form has become one that has overemphasized the need for mechanics, technical performance, and competition. The most popular gaming experiences fill that mental space of escapism, being careful to challenge perspectives of players and to instead offer an experience of detachment and relaxation. I feel like I get funny looks when I tell people that playing a game changed the way that I thought about things. But this assertion isn't challenged when it comes to other forms of media. Movies, TV, art and literature have all demonstrated that creating art and media that asks questions of human experiences and challenges their consumers can resonate really deeply. Now, don't get me wrong, these other artistic mediums can be focused on fun experiences as well. However, over time they have developed creative spaces to defy convention and challenge those that witness them. And it's these pieces of art that are often the ones that are viewed as true masterpieces. Yet some part of me feels silly when I suggest that games should be allowed in this space for discussion too. Maybe it's just too early in the life cycle of games as an art form. Maybe some games need to blaze the artistic path for future success, like the early artists of these other mediums did. It seems like for now, the success of a game relies on its reputation for fun. Something seems to be hampering the capacity for games to gain the artistic capital that I think they deserve. And I want to know why. I don't think I've done the adequate research and thinking to process this now, but it has been on my mind for a while. It's a big question too. The answer could be a mix of market forces, consumer interest, game media history, art history, social and cultural capital of video games, etc., etc. So if you're looking for a succinct answer for the YouTube wrap-up, well, I'm sorry, but this might take a couple of videos to unpack. And finally, that brings us to what sort of content I want to make. This video was supposed to be a review of a game I enjoyed, but I don't think I've actually told you that much about it, which is good. I don't want to be the one to detract from your experience of this game. I just want to put it on your radar. I could instead pick a game like Tears of the Kingdom, tell you what's in it and why it's great. However, I feel like the space in games media for that approach to game discussion is already overcrowded and can sometimes feel like just listing what's on the game box. Instead, I want to talk about the games that resonate with me and explore why. I mean, I played Before Your Eyes months ago, and the process of writing the review left me with questions like, why do I recommend a game that's so short? What's even the problem with recommending a short game? Certain games like this make me think about concepts outside of the game itself, and I want to pull apart and dissect these thoughts. Like, why did I find immortality so damn scary? Why did Devil May Cry fix the way I approach linearity in video games? Why is Dredge creepy? And what's the difference between creepy and scary? These are the sorts of things that I want to explore here, and well, if you think that type of content appeals to you, then do the things and stick around. Thanks for watching.